Mac and Deke are stuck in 1982, and so what does that mean? Of course, Deke starts a rock band. Hey everybody, this is Scott from Forgot to Grow Up. Welcome to our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, Episode 7 Thoughts video. Just finished watching the latest episode. I'm just going to be sharing my general thoughts on the latest episode. So in this episode, like I said, Mac and Deke are stuck in 1982 after having, missed the Zephyr's jump, and we see Mac immediately go into hermit mode because, having obviously being upset about the events that happened in last episode with his parents dying at the hands of their chromacons. And so him being stuck in 1982 and immediately going back to his old family home because his family's not there. His younger self, and his brother are no longer living there, and obviously his parents are. So we see him immediately go into hermit mode, and Deke tries his best to, keep the connection with Mac, tries to be there for Mac, but Mac just pushes him away. Mac does his own brooding thing, goes and builds models, and drinks a lot of beer, which I found surprising that he didn't manage to grow any kind of beer gut in that year, but he grew a beard, but not a beard gut or a beer gut, so he didn't quite go the Thor route, but he did go hermit mode, and we see he spends quite a bit of time in 1982 just kind of sulking until eventually Deke's able to convince him of something important, and so he goes to visit Deke at a bar where we discover the Deke Squad, where Deke is pretending to be, or not pretending to be, Deke is a rock star of the modern day, having stolen 80s rock ballads that hadn't been published yet, having been in 1982, coming up with songs that hadn't been released yet, like ones from the Breakfast Club and etc. So I really just, as soon as that popped up, I hadn't seen the promo for this episode, so as soon as Deke just pops up as doing the his 1980s rock star impression, I just immediately was like, oh my god, this episode's gonna be great. And it was. This episode was maybe one of my favorite episodes of the whole series, not even just this season, just because I love the fun they have. Like, they've been having a lot of fun with the time travel tropes and playing with different tropes of each time period, but this one was the one that spoke to me, I think, mainly because the era I grew up on a lot of 80s movies and TV shows, so a lot of the references, a lot of the tropes that they make fun of in this episode, I was just immediately there for. So the fact that Deke was, pretending to be this 80s hair rock star, I just loved it. It was just great seeing him in all the different 80s get-ups. So I'm like, oh, I recognize those from all the different movies and TV shows I watched growing up. So I just really enjoyed it. Not that I grew up during the 80s. I grew up during the 90s, but I would have been watching 80s reruns and stuff, just to clarify that. But yeah, so I just really enjoyed this episode. Then we find out, though, that Deke, this band of his, is actually a cover for a S.H.I.E.L.D. team that he's put together, a very mismatched individuals, much like Deke himself, as you would imagine he would come up with a team. And we see, obviously, Mac has this resistance at first to, joining Deke. He wants to just continue brooding, and Deke's able to eventually get through to him with the help of Coulson, who's a TV, which I loved. I knew they were going to bring Coulson back, and the fact that they saved his hard drive was saved made sense to me, and that was completely, like I said, I think I talked about that in the last video, that they're going to do something along those lines. So that this episode, having him living in a TV with the 80s background behind him, I loved it. It was great. It was exactly what I wanted to see in this episode. It was, again, another one of those 80s tropes that they just had a little fun with in this one. And so I just really enjoyed that. And we see them and the team have to then fight, what's her name? Sybil, that's it. Sybil, who also survived by transferring her mind via power lines, and so she was able to survive as well. And she gets this computer, I don't want to call him a nerd, but a computer technician, we'll call him, to build her a very, very 1980s robot body, and this, very typical, just some tracks and like short circuit looking one. I'll try to put a picture if I remember to do that in the editing. But yeah, so she gets these very like I said, typical 80s robot built for her, and she gets a few. Then once she has a body, she starts building some, and then they also incorporate the 1980s horror tropes of, you know, along the lines of Terminator and things like that, of these robots killing people. And so I just loved everything about this episode. It was just so great just seeing these 80s tropes just mixed in with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and them just having this really what seemed like a lot of fun with it, particularly like Coulson on the TV, even Sybil on the her own TV eventually we saw. It seemed like a fun episode, and I had a lot of fun watching and just enjoying and seeing these different tropes. Then we get at the end a showdown, which starts off with a classic 80s montage, a suit up montage. We see Mac getting suited up, trim the beard off, getting the shotgun axe, the chrome shotgun axe that Deke got for him, and then they go to town beating up, taking out some of the robots, and I just loved it. It was fun. It was great. It was just so enjoyable, and I just really enjoyed this episode and how much fun that it was, and how much fun they seemed to have with, you know, playing with the tropes of the 80s. Like I said, the horror elements that they throw in throughout it with the robots was just I just really enjoyed it. So overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this episode. I really loved it. It might be one of my favorite episodes of the whole series, definitely of this season so far. But it even makes me more excited to see where we're gonna go with the next few episodes, because this is the final season. This is the final season. It's the final season, and we're getting down to the last few episodes. So I think they're gonna just let loose. Like this episode, they let loose and they had fun, like leaning into all the different 80s tropes. So I'm really curious to see where we're going to go next episode with them still being in the 80s. Or are they going to go a little bit more after that? Are they going to hop to the 90s before we get back to the modern day? I would love, actually. It's funny, my thoughts about them doing time travel jumping kind of completely changed from when the season started to now. At first I was like, oh, it's a little too, you know, Legends of Tomorrow. Are they really going to do that? But how much fun that I've been having enjoying each of these episodes and seeing the team falling into all these different tropes of each of the different eras. I just have loved so much. Now I'm just really excited to see if they're going to hop into the 90s. Are they going to hop into the early 2000s? That would be a lot of fun to hop into early 2000s. Are they going to do, are they going to jump into 2012 and see a little bit of Coulson get killed the first time around? Well, that would be great. But now it won't surprise me as much because I've just thought of it. And now I've ruined that surprise for you as well. But yeah, so that's pretty much all my thoughts on this latest episode. Obviously, I loved it. But what do you guys think of it? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you're curious about more of my thoughts on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., be sure to check out my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. playlist for either Season 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. I've have those all. You can check those out on the playlist tab on the Forgot to Grow Up channel. But if you're... Thank you... Oh, wow, that was bad. Thank you again for joining me today, though. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and have a good one.